Alrighty, so we're gonna start working on the back a little bit today. Some of you guys might have seen on the Facebook page that I did get an engine here. That engine I just plan on using for mock-up because it's complete and it's all nice and crusty. So it has everything on it that I need. I just borrowed it from a friend who lives a couple blocks from me. So I also did get brake lines, and they're the wrong brake lines. So I was all excited. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy a nice kit and put it all in there. It'll probably take me 1 hour to do the whole thing. And it turns out it was the wrong kit. I bought the kit for the 4-wheel ABS, and this just has the rear ABS. So I'm not gonna be able to use this kit, so that's a little disappointing. So what I think I'm just gonna do is probably just resell this one. So if any of you guys are interested in that, I'll sell it to you. And I think I'm just gonna go ahead and make all new lines 100%. So I did order a line lock and some other stuff for the brake system, so I'm gonna wait on that. But I did get my rear shocks in and the brackets for the rear shocks, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these things welded in today. So what I have here now, just to mock this up, is this is actually one of the old torsion bars, and it fits perfectly across between the rails, so I might actually just modify this and use this for a mount for the shock. And this is just gonna go on the axle, and then I'll probably do something like this. Just weld them on that way. So I do have it about in the middle of the stroke right now, so I'm hoping that should be fine. But what I might do is test the bed and then see if I can actually get a little bit more room out of this, how much higher I can go. Because if I go here, I was gonna go right across the top of the frame rail, but that might compress the stroke in a little bit more. So I think what I might try to do is get the bed back on by myself and kind of mock up where this is and see how much height I can get out of it. Then that would also put near full weight on the rear end, and I'd have a better idea of the shock position. Alright, so instead of throwing the bed on, I just decided to measure where the bed would actually sit. So I just used a piece of 2.5-inch pipe and a board going all the way across. And that gives me basically the bed position. I have this end of this board matched up where the bolt hole is from the front, so I was able to measure 21 inches back. And this support where this rides sits right here. That's where this thing rides. So I need to go back behind that. And this little bump up here is where the factory shock mount was. So that little bracket coming off the frame there is where the factory shock mount was. I just cut it off, and that torsion bar actually rests right inside there. So this side is up on top of the rail. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this off here, and then I'm gonna notch that out so the frame will actually go inside that. It's pretty close to level, so I'm gonna have to come down a little bit. If I go half the width of the frame with a notch, and then put that on, I should be able to weld it in there and get that thing pretty close where it needs to be. And then again, the frame will just be able to sit right here and it won't actually interfere. All right, so I got quite a bit done. Just been working, not really filming much. I'm a little bit frustrated today with how some of this is going. The torsion bar deal actually went pretty well. These are just tacked into place. I still got to fully weld them around. My frustration came when I was welding those brackets on. It was welding like just terrible. Like, I'm not that great at MIG welding anyways, but this one was just not working very well. It was spitting and sputtering a lot and just having issues with it. So I am still using my 100% argon, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. So I did go get a new tank, and the couple of welds that I did up here seem like they're better now. So I think what I'm gonna do with this is unbolt all this stuff and actually flip the axle. I might pull it completely out and grind some of those welds back down and then re-weld them with the new gas. There's like a couple spots that don't look terrible, but most of it was like this shit, and I'm just not very happy with how any of this looks. So I couldn't get any penetration at all. So you can see it's just kind of built up, and I just want to pull it out and redo it, grind them down and redo it. I'm very just frustrated with how that went. The shocks did come with these little T-bars in them, so I just went to the hardware store and I got these little steel cylinders, and then I welded a nut into one side of it, so I actually have some threads on it, and cut them to the right length and tacked them in, and that's what they look like. Overall, the shock setup isn't any lower than where the Caltrack bar is, so that should be okay. So I'm gonna get the shocks back out of it, unbolt the axle, flip the axle, grind that thing, finish welding the little standoffs on, and then paint everything. Alright, so here's kind of what I was talking about, this weld. So you can see there's just like a lot of chunks and just crap all over. And like that, didn't look like it wanted to penetrate at all. So like compared to the axle tube, let's say that's about a normal MIG weld for me. So I don't know what was going on that it all ended up like this, but hopefully it was the gas, that or just the position that I was in when I was welding. So I'm gonna grind this stuff out and clean it up, and then hopefully I can at least end up with something like that. I'd be okay with that. All right, so that's a little bit better. There's the passenger side. So like I said, not perfect. I'm not a great welder, but I know I'm capable of better than what was on there. So I feel a lot better about that. I did get my little tabs welded on there. I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing cool. I'll probably throw some paint on it quick while it's still warm, but not hot. And then I'll throw everything back together tomorrow. So probably next video, I'll be doing like the cross member, like the transmission cross member and engine mounts and all that stuff. I did get the piping and stuff that I want to use for that. So I got this 1-inch pipe and some 2-inch flat stock to make the transmission cross member and stuff out of. I did get this universal engine mount kit for LS. These brackets I don't think are going to be long enough to do what I need though, but this is like $38 for this whole thing, so I thought that was pretty reasonable. I used a similar mount to this when I did my swap on the Nissan hardbody with the small block in it. And I kind of like how these work. So all I got left to do on the back here is fix this little wobble. I do have some material for that, so I'm just gonna basically support the top of it right here, like kind of hold it down and in the center, and then I'm gonna use the bed bolts to kind of hold that thing in place. All right, so it's the next day now. I actually got the garage door open today. It's kind of nice out. It's like 38 degrees, so warm enough to work with the door open, which worked out because I was doing some grinding and stuff and there was a lot of dust. So I got everything mounted now and painted. I did end up readjusting the shocks a little bit because when I first mounted them, I forgot I had the back of that truck jacked up a little bit. So I actually adjusted that and they're in kind of the position that I want to be. Right now I'm just going to set them kind of in the middle of the travel. But with the angle that I have that bottom bracket at, I kind of put it in line with how the shock would need to move, so I could adjust it however I need to. When I tack welded those brackets on, I used the Tremec Angle Finder app. It's like a driveline angle finder, and you can use your phone and it will give you the degree measurements. So I have both of them at like 29 degrees. Let's see what that one looks like. They're pretty close. They're like within a half a degree. I also grinded out the bump stops. I had to grind them out because the nut was so rusty it just rounded off. So cut the bump stops out. Brake line bracket was actually held in by that bolt, so I just welded it back in. I'm gonna go ahead and paint over all that stuff. Repaint that little mark there. I ended up grinding that out so I had a place to clamp my welder clamp on. But what I thought would be a cool test to show is the adjustments on the shocks. So this is what it looks like just with using my hands. So I'll go in and tighten them up. So that's all the way loose. That's all the way tight. So now I can like barely get it to move with my hands. I'll jump on it. So that's pretty tight. So I'll loosen them back up quick and then jump on it again. That one's all the way loose. That one's all the way loose. There's quite a bit more travel there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave them at a 5 to start with, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so now I think I'm done for this. I'm gonna leave the bed off of it. I still gotta do the brackets. I don't think I'm gonna do a whole video on that. Next thing will be getting the engine in and getting the transmission cross member and engine mounts built. I think I want to use the truck accessories with the truck AC compressor, so I might have to notch out some sections there for the AC compressor. I've been kind of back and forth with what I want to do with the accessories because I have enough room. I know I can fit everything with the truck accessories, so it's not really an issue of space. If I'm not saving space or there's not a direct need to go with something else, I feel like truck accessories are going to be easiest to get or find if there's any problems. Cheapest probably, so I don't really think I want to go and convert everything over, but we'll see what I end up wanting to do. I originally wanted to do AC, keep AC in this. I'm kind of back and forth on it now, like if I really want to do it. I feel like I want to. If I can just notch that out and keep the factory AC compressor, and then I just want to run like a Vintage Air Mini under the dash, then I'd just be able to patch up these big holes over here on the passenger side. I don't really like having those holes there just from driving it and like the exhaust fumes and everything. That's a A lot of opening there and a lot of fumes come in the cab. So not really a fan of that, but I do have a ton of space here. I think what I'm gonna do is cut this middle section out and I'm gonna flip that intercooler upside down, and I think I'm actually gonna come from the bottom with that single outlet instead of having to come from the top. That would allow me to lower the intercooler down. And I did measure from the bumper up to the top of the grill opening, and I do have enough space. I think it's about 10 inches. It's like a 3.5 inch core, but it's about 10 inches from the bumper to the top of the grill opening. So it would actually work out decent if I flipped it upside down and then ran a single pipe up the middle. And I'll have plenty of room to do that. Because I was looking at it the other day, and if I rest the intercooler on top of this thing, just visually looking straight from fender to fender, the thing sticks out like 4 inches farther than it needs to be. So I'm probably gonna flip it over. But yeah, that's about it. If you guys want to buy those brake lines, like I said, let me know. I'll send them to you. And that's it for this one.